Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My wife abandoned our kids and spent thousands of our money on hotels with her affair partner. When I confronted her, all she said was, "I already gave you 17 years. Just be grateful." I just stared at her. There was nothing else I could say. That was 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, she sent letters apologizing to our children. Not to me, just them. I am the sole provider for my family of 6. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and hasn't worked since our eldest was born by her own choice. We've been together 17 years. I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. First thing I do is take the dogs out. Then I make the kids lunches and snacks, make sure their bags, water bottles, and school essentials are lined up at the front door. Then I head to work. The kids get picked up for daycare or school at 7 a.m. Between after-school activities, sports clubs, and extracurriculars, they're not home until 6 p.m. My wife doesn't take them to their clubs or attend any of their activities. I come home at 7 o'clock most nights. I make dinner. I help with homework. I do bath time for the little ones. I do the dishes. I take the dogs out again, this time for longer walks. Then I tuck the little ones in. If the house is a mess, I clean it. I pay for everything: mortgage, bills, insurance, groceries, clothes, toys, tech, after-school activities, date nights, even a woman who deep cleans the house once a month. With our household running smoothly, we've each carved out some personal time. It hasn't been easy, but I thought we had some balance. That was before everything unraveled. Then she announced she was taking a 2-week vacation. The dates overlapped with my rare plan to visit my brother. She demanded I cancel. "I need a break," she said. "We all do," I replied, trying to stay calm. "But I haven't seen my brother in 2 years. I'm not canceling this." She threw a fit. We argued hard. I stood my ground. The next morning, I took a sick day. I stayed home while the kids went to school. I needed space to think. Around noon, she appeared from upstairs. "You're not at work?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "No," I said. "Took a sick day." She folded her arms. "Well, that's just irresponsible." I didn't respond. A moment passed. Then she softened, stepped into the kitchen. "Can I do anything?" she asked, reaching for a glass. "Water would be good," I muttered, rubbing my temple. She brought me the glass, then wandered off to take a phone call. A few minutes later, she came back into the living room, too cheerful. "Let's go out," she said. "I've got a migraine coming on." "Come on," she pushed. "We could go shopping. Maybe hit the nail salon together." "I'm not up for it," I said, trying to hold my tone. "I'd rather talk about what's been happening." She stared at me, unmoved. "Well, I'm not ruining my day over another fight." She dressed up. Hair done. Makeup. Nice heels. Didn't even lock the door on her way out. She ignored me when I called after her. "Can we please just talk?" She returned at 8 p.m., slamming the door behind her. "Where's dinner?" she snapped. I looked up from helping our daughter with her homework. "The kids and I already ate. You didn't make anything for me. I figured you were out. You didn't say when you'd be back." She scoffed and walked out again. Came back 20 minutes later with McDonald's, for herself. Our youngest tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, did you get me ice cream?" She looked at me and pointed. "Ask your dad. He said you couldn't have any." That took everything in me not to snap in front of her. I just took a deep breath and distracted our daughter with a popsicle. Later that evening, after the kids had gone to their rooms, I finally confronted her. "We need to talk about how things are being handled here," I said. "I'm doing everything. This isn't sustainable." She raised an eyebrow. "I do plenty." "Like what?" I asked. "Laundry, feeding the dogs, appointments, groceries," she replied. I kept my voice measured. "You put the clothes in the machine. I'm the one folding and putting them away. You pour the dogs food, I prep it, and take them out twice a day. I'm the one taking the kids to their appointments. And you order groceries online. I'm the one unloading them and putting everything away." She clenched her jaw. Her hands trembled. She turned without a word and stormed upstairs. I followed her. She was on the phone. The second she saw me, she hissed into the receiver, "Hold on, he's here again." Then she looked at me. "You're sleeping on the couch tonight." "No, I'm not," I said. I stepped around her and got into bed. She hung up and tried to physically drag me off the bed. We struggled, quietly, so the kids wouldn't wake up, but it ended with me on the couch. Not because I lost, but because I chose to avoid waking the children. The following days brought similar tensions. We barely spoke. I stopped handling her laundry. I still took care of mine and the younger kids. The older ones had started managing their own. I cooked only for the children. If she asked about dinner, I simply said, "You'll have to sort something for yourself." She didn't like it, but I was done pretending this was normal. My eldest son, he's always been observant, Must have sensed something. He asked to walk the dogs with his friend after school during the week. I didn't object, but I noticed how distant he became, especially with his mother. One night, he tugged at my sleeve as I folded laundry. "Dad, do you still love me?" I stopped what I was doing. My throat tightened. "Of course I do," I said quickly, kneeling in front of him. "Nothing in this world could change how much I love you. Nothing. Do you hear me?" He nodded, but his eyes didn't meet mine. He wasn't ready to tell me what was really on his mind. I could see it. Thursday evening came. I was planning to leave Friday morning to finally visit my brother. She knew this. As I was finishing up dishes, she appeared in the kitchen. "Let's share a drink," she said casually. I looked at her, unsure. "Just one." She poured us each a glass. I had mine, but almost immediately I felt the fatigue crash down on me. My limbs were heavy, my head foggy. "I think I need to lie down," I muttered, pushing my glass away. "Long day." She shrugged. "Suit yourself." As we got ready for bed, the tension was unbearable. We didn't say another word. The silence roared between us. Friday morning, I woke up and she was gone. So was her suitcase. I checked my phone. No calls. No missed messages. Just a single text from her. "We'll talk when I'm back." I called. Straight to voicemail. Texted again. Nothing. She ignored me. She went on her trip anyway. I was furious. Furious beyond what I could even express. I'd left her some cash in the joint account, enough to get by. She still had the card, but I moved everything else to a separate account. Then I had to do the hardest part, call my brother. I told him I couldn't come. I didn't even have the strength to explain it all. But he understood. On Saturday, he showed up anyway. Darren came with his son and 2 daughters. The moment I opened the door, he looked me over and didn't say a word, just pulled me into a bear hug. I hadn't realized how much I needed that until my shoulders started shaking. My throat burned from holding everything in. He patted my back while his kids ran past us, their voices bouncing off the walls. "Uncle." My youngest daughter ran straight to Darren's legs. He laughed, scooped her up, and spun her around in the air. She shrieked with joy. That sound. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in weeks. The other kids emerged from their rooms, drawn by the noise and energy. Even my eldest son, who hadn't come out of his room since she left, wandered downstairs. Darren gently set my daughter down and took in the scene. "All right, troops," he said, clapping his hands. "Your dad needs some help getting this place shipshape. Who wants to earn some pizza money?" The kids erupted in cheers. Within minutes, Darren had everyone split into teams, his 3 and my 4, all of them cleaning, sorting, picking up toys, folding laundry, wiping down tables. I stood in the kitchen, watching the controlled chaos. The house hadn't felt this alive in months. Then my phone buzzed. A message from her. "Hope you're enjoying babysitting duty. See you in 2 weeks." I didn't respond. I deleted it. Shoved the phone deep in my pocket. Darren came up beside me, opened the cabinet, grabbed 2 mugs. No need to ask where things were. He'd helped us move in 8 years ago. "Coffee?" he asked, already reaching for the machine. I nodded faintly. He started brewing. "Kids seem good," he said, glancing toward the living room. "They're adjusting." I rubbed my temples. The headache I'd had since Thursday still lingered. "My eldest keeps asking if I love him. Won't say why." Darren's brow furrowed. "That's concerning. Has he said anything else?" "No. Just keeps his distance." I glanced toward the couch, from where his mother usually sits. He won't even use her favorite mug. The coffee maker gurgled softly as Darren leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes steady on mine. "You mentioned feeling drowsy Thursday night," he said, after one drink. "Yeah," I muttered. "Knocked me out cold." Woke up and she was gone. His frown deepened. "That's not normal." I opened my mouth to respond, to brush it off, but before I could say anything, my daughter came running into the kitchen, crumpled papers in her arms. "Daddy, we found Mommy's papers in the trash. Should we keep them?" My stomach sank. "What papers, sweetie?" She held them out to me, a mess of torn, wrinkled documents. I recognized them instantly, bank statements, insurance forms, even our mortgage paperwork, all from the filing cabinet in our bedroom. Darren crouched and took the papers from her gently. "Good job finding these. Why don't you go help your cousins in the living room?" She skipped off without a second thought. Darren stood and laid the papers out across the counter. Some had coffee stains. Others were ripped nearly in half. My hands were trembling as I reached out and sorted through them. "She tried to destroy our financial records," I said, voice barely audible. "Not tried," Darren said, holding up part of our homeowner's insurance policy. "Succeeded. With some." I ran a hand through my hair. "I've got digital copies of most of it, I think." Darren didn't look up. "Why would she do this?" I stared at the shredded documents. He answered his own question. "Same reason she drugged you Thursday night." The word drugged hit me like a gut punch. "I know," I stammered. "She wouldn't do that." But I couldn't finish the sentence. Not with the papers in front of me. Not after everything else. My phone buzzed, the ringtone slicing through the silence. I grabbed it. The school. My chest tightened. Hello, Mr. Jackson. The voice on the other end was calm, but unfamiliar. This is Principal Martinez from the elementary school. Yes, is everything okay? I'm calling about your children's absences last week. My heart skipped. Absences. They were in school every day. There was a pause. Our records show your wife called them in sick Tuesday and Wednesday. She said there was a family emergency. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the counter. No emergency. They went to school. I packed their lunches. I watched them get on the bus. Another pause. Mr. Jackson, she said carefully, can you come in Monday morning? We need to discuss this discrepancy. Yes, of course, I said quickly. I'll be there. I hung up slowly. Darren was watching me, jaw tight. She called them in sick, I said flatly. But they were here. They went to school. Same as always. He frowned. So where did she tell the school they were? Family emergency, I muttered, voice thick with disbelief. What emergency? I was at work. She was home. Doing what exactly? Darren's tone was sharper than usual. Then my eldest son appeared in the doorway. He looked between us, cautious. Dad, is everything okay? I forced a smile. Just some confusion with the school, buddy. Nothing to worry about. He didn't look convinced. Is it about Mom calling us in sick? My blood went cold. You knew about that. He hesitated. She made me promise not to tell. Said you'd get upset over nothing. Darren stepped forward, gently intercepting. Hey, kiddo. Why don't you show me your room? I brought that game you wanted to try. My son looked at me. I nodded. They walked off together, up the stairs. I stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by torn documents and questions I didn't want answers to. The next hour blurred as I sat on the phone with our bank. I spoke to a representative, methodical, polite, who walked me through recent transactions. There were purchases I didn't recognize. A necklace, designer shoes, hotel stays, spa treatments, charges scattered across multiple cities. How much? I asked finally, my voice hoarse. She listed them calmly, one by one. A necklace for $800. Shoes for $600. A spa day for $100. I stopped writing. Just sat there, listening, as the total crept higher and higher. It made my stomach churn. Can I dispute these charges? I asked the bank representative. A pause on the other end. Since it's a joint account and your wife made the purchases, that would be difficult. I swallowed the frustration. Can I remove her from the account? That would require her authorization. Unless the account is restructured. Already in process, I said quietly. Can you freeze the card immediately? Yes, sir. One moment. Done. One small victory. I ended the call and stepped outside. Darren was in the backyard with the kids. They'd built an obstacle course using lawn furniture and pool noodles. My youngest was on his shoulders, shrieking with laughter as he galloped around the yard pretending to be a horse. The other kids chased each other, weaving between plastic chairs and giggling uncontrollably. It should have made me smile. Instead, I felt hollow. This was what weekends should look like. Family, chaos, laughter. Not me inside, discovering my wife had been draining our bank account while vacationing on money we didn't have. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. Your wife is staying with me. Thought you should know. Jillian, her best friend. The one who always gave me those sharp, suspicious looks at school events. Lived across town. I saved the number. Me. Thanks for letting me know. 3 dots. They disappeared. Then came back. Jillian. She says you're abusive. That you control all the money and won't let her work. I stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Abusive? I begged her to get a job. Years ago. Even part-time. Something. Anything. She refused. The kids need me home, she'd say. And I believed her. So I worked harder. Took every extra shift. Covered everything. I typed slowly. That's not true. 3 dots again. Jillian. She's very convincing. She has bruises on her arms. My hands trembled. I hadn't touched my wife in anger. Ever. The only physical contact we'd had recently was her trying to drag me off the bed. I stood frozen, staring at the text, when Darren appeared beside me. You okay? I held out the phone without saying a word. His face darkened as he read. She's setting you up. For what? I asked, though I already knew. Custody. Divorce. Making herself the victim. He scrolled, then snapped a photo of the screen. Screenshot everything. Every text. Every call. Every strange charge. You're going to need it. The kids ran past us, my nephew chasing my daughter with a pool noodle. Their laughter echoed behind us, but it felt distant, like it belonged to another world. One where mothers didn't abandon their children or spread lies about their fathers. Uncle Darren, my eldest, called out from the patio. Can you help me with something? Darren gave my shoulder a firm squeeze. Start a journal. Write down everything you remember from the past few months. Every fight. Every weird moment. Every time something didn't feel right. He jogged off to help my son. I turned and went inside. Found a spiral notebook in the junk drawer. Sat at the table. My hand cramped from how fast I was writing. Page after page of moments I'd ignored. The time she came home at 3 a.m. and said she'd been at Jillian's. The weekend she insisted I take the kids to my mother's so she could deep clean the house, only for everything to look untouched when we returned. How she started locking her phone, changing passwords, snapping her laptop shut the moment I walked in. How had I been so blind? The front door opened. "Mr. Jackson," a familiar voice called out. I stood. Maria, our former cleaning lady, stood in the entryway with a small cardboard box in her arms. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said gently. "I found some things that belong to your wife. Thank you for bringing them." I took the box from her hands. "I'm sorry again about ending the service," I added awkwardly. She waved it off. No apologies needed. But then she lowered her voice and stepped closer. "Mr. Jackson," she said carefully, glancing toward the backyard. "Your wife had me do extra tasks. Things not in our agreement." "What kind of tasks?" Her eyes flicked down, uneasy. "Mailing packages. Picking up items from strange addresses. Always when you were at work." Maria pulled out her phone, glancing over her shoulder before speaking. "I kept records. For my own protection," she said. "Would you like copies?" My mouth went dry. I nodded. "Yes, please." She sent several photos to my phone, receipts for shipped packages, tracking slips, photos of addresses I didn't recognize. There were even images of small boxes and envelopes she'd been asked to retrieve, mostly documents, though some items looked bulkier. "Maria," I asked carefully, "what was in the packages she had you mail?" She shook her head. "I never looked. But they were heavy. And she always paid me extra. Cash. Said not to mention them." After she left, I sat at the dining table and opened the box she'd brought. Inside were more financial documents, some ripped, others intact. A few pieces of jewelry I didn't recognize. And a phone. A second phone. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Powered it on. Password protected. Of course. Darren found me still staring at it. "Second phone?" he asked, sitting beside me. Apparently. He didn't hesitate. "My offer still stands. Stay with me for a while. Bring the kids. We'll make room." I shook my head. "We can't leave our home." "You can't stay here alone," he said, glancing toward the front windows, his voice low. "Not while she's out there spinning stories about abuse. You need witnesses. You need protection." He gestured to the phone. "She's been planning something for months. This isn't just a messy marriage anymore." Before I could respond, my youngest daughter ran in from the hallway. "Daddy, I'm hungry." A familiar need. A normal one. Something I could handle. I smiled at her. "What do you want for lunch, princess?" "Grilled cheese." "Coming right up." I made lunch for 8 people, an assembly line of grilled cheese sandwiches and fruit. The kitchen filled with the sound of kids chatting and laughing. Darren cracked jokes as he handed out plates, and for a brief moment, things felt almost normal. Even my eldest son smiled, really smiled, when his cousin made a joke about cheese pulling like superhero webs. After lunch, the younger kids crashed hard, naps on couches and beds. The older ones retreated to the den to play video games. Darren and I returned to the dining room. The second phone lay on the coffee table between us like a loaded weapon. "Try birthdays," Darren suggested. I typed in her birthday. Nothing. Our wedding anniversary. Still nothing. The kids' birthdays, no luck. Then it hit me. The date she first brought up the vacation. The one she demanded I cancel my trip for. I entered the date. The screen unlocked. My stomach dropped. Text after text appeared. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Messages between her and Jillian. About me. About leaving. About planning. Screenshots of bank statements I'd never seen before. Conversations with a lawyer about custody arrangements. Photos of bruises I didn't cause. Carefully taken, visible, staged. Darren leaned in as I scrolled. "Darren," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Look at this." He read over my shoulder. His face hardened with each new message. "She's been planning this," he said finally, voice low. 6 months, at least. One thread caught my eye, labeled Raymond. I opened it. 40 texts. Meeting locations. Photos, some blurry, some not. Her lying in bed, wine glass in hand. Another of them at what looked like a hotel balcony. "Who's Raymond?" Darren asked. I scrolled up. Found my answer in an older message thread. "Her personal trainer," I said. "The one she said she needed for her mental health." The messages went back 8 months. Before the locked phone. Before she changed her laptop password. Before she stopped touching me. Before everything. This wasn't her reacting to our problems. This was the problem. My phone rang again. My mother. "Hey, Mom," I answered. "Honey," she said immediately, "I just got the strangest call from your wife." I put her on speaker. Darren leaned in. "What did she say?" I asked. "She said you kicked her out." That you're keeping the children from her. I felt the anger swell in my chest. Mom, I said as evenly as I could. She left. Voluntarily. She went on vacation after I refused to cancel plans with Darren. She packed her suitcase and walked out. That's not what she told me, my mother said, her voice unsure now. She's crying. Says you changed the locks. That you drained the bank accounts. Darren stepped in. It's me, Mom. I'm here with him. I got here Saturday. Door was wide open. She left Friday morning while he was still asleep. He only moved the money after she made unauthorized purchases. Tens of thousands of dollars. There was silence on the other end. Then she said, softly, then why? Would she lie to me? We're trying to figure that out. I told her quietly. Mom, has she contacted you before? About our marriage? A few times, she admitted after a pause. Said you were controlling. That you wouldn't let her work or have friends. I closed my eyes, the weight of it sinking in. I defended you, she added quickly. But she was very convincing. My throat tightened. How many people had she told these lies to? How long had she been building this narrative behind my back? After we hung up, I sat in silence at the kitchen table, staring at the cooling remnants of dinner. Darren ordered pizza. The kids erupted into cheers when it arrived, jumping up and down like it was some grand celebration. But to me, it wasn't a party. It was a Band-Aid over a gaping wound. We gathered at the table, paper plates, napkins flying, kids chatting. My eldest sat beside me, unusually quiet as he chewed his slice. Then he looked up. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? Everything stopped. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the youngest kids froze mid-bite. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. I swallowed hard. I don't know, buddy. Maybe. Good. He said it so simply, so plainly, then went back to eating like he hadn't just taken my heart and cracked it clean in half. Darren's kids started talking again. Something about school, a silly joke. My kids slowly joined in, but I kept catching them glancing at me, their eyes searching for something they couldn't put into words. After dinner, Darren took charge of bath time, corralling the younger ones upstairs with promises of bubbles and bedtime stories. I stepped outside to make some calls. Credit card companies. 2 accounts I didn't recognize had been opened in my name. Both maxed out. Thousands of dollars. Debt I never made. My hands trembled as I disputed the charges. The representative was kind, empathetic, even, but made it clear. Proving fraud on accounts in a spouse's name wouldn't be easy. By the time the kids were all tucked into bed, I felt numb. Darren and I sat on the back porch, cold beers in hand. The dogs curled at our feet. I stared out into the dark yard. What do? I asked, my voice nearly lost in the still night air. He didn't hesitate. You protect yourself. Protect those kids. Document everything. And get a lawyer. I took a long drink. The bottle felt heavier than it should have. I can't afford. You can't afford not to, he cut in. Not now. He turned to look at me. And you stop blaming yourself for not seeing it sooner. I stared at the wood grain on the railing, barely able to hold his gaze. How did I miss this, Darren? 17 years. 17. How do you hide that kind of betrayal? He answered without missing a beat. You didn't miss it. You trusted your wife. That's what you're supposed to do. My phone buzzed in my lap. Another message. I glanced down. Jillian. She's filing for emergency custody Monday. Says you're unstable. That the kids aren't safe. Thought you should have a warning. I turned the screen to Darren. His jaw clenched. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and started typing. What are you doing? Texting our cousin. The lawyer. He owes me a favor. I can't pay. Yes, you can, he said firmly. Because you can't afford not to have representation when she files. He finished typing, then looked me dead in the eye. This is war now. She fired the first shot months ago. It's time to defend yourself. I nodded, something inside me hardening. Settling. She had left the kids. Left me. Taken money. Destroyed our documents. Lied to our family and friends. But she'd made one fatal mistake. She'd left the children with me. And I would document every second. Every sandwich made. Every homework assignment checked. Every bath, bedtime story, and scraped knee kissed. My phone lay on the table. The sky above was a sheet of dark velvet, pinpricked with stars that felt as distant as she had over the past year. Somewhere, she was likely laughing with Raymond, her affair partner. Maybe sipping wine, playing the victim in this sick performance. But here, on this porch, I opened the notebook again. Day 2 without her. Kids are happy. House is peaceful. Brother here for support. She's telling lies to everyone who will listen. I'm done pretending this marriage isn't over. Tomorrow, I'd face the school. Call more banks. Start untangling this twisted web she'd woven. But tonight, I sat with my brother. My children safe in their beds. And I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, hope. Sunday morning started with my nephew launching himself onto my bed at 6:30 a.m., giggling like a maniac. Wake up, uncle, he shouted. It's pancake day. His energy was relentless, but I welcomed it. The normalcy of it. all knees and elbows and wild hair, pushed away some of the dread that had started pooling in my stomach over tomorrow's meeting with Principal Martinez. By the time I made it downstairs, Darren already had coffee brewing. The smell pulled me into the kitchen like a rope. The kids were loud, cheerful, their voices bouncing off the walls in a house that had been too quiet for too long. I checked my phone. 17 missed calls. All from her. No voicemails. Just those red notification bubbles piling up like a stack of accusations. I pressed the side button, silencing the screen, and slipped the phone face down on the counter. Pancakes. Focus on pancakes. I mixed batter, poured circles onto the griddle, flipped them at just the right golden moment. The rhythm of it, pour, flip, plate, anchored me. I needed something solid today, and feeding my family gave me that. Around 9 o'clock, the doorbell rang. It was my mother. She hadn't called, just showed up. Her expression was a blend of worry and determination. She stepped inside and took one look at the chaos. Darren herding kids toward the backyard for some game involving cones, balls, and pool noodles, and turned to me, her voice low. Can we talk? I nodded, leading her to the front room. Her eyes searched mine. She's called me again. Left messages this morning. I said. She tried calling me too. No voicemails. And the things she's been saying, about you controlling everything, being angry, unstable. Come here, I said gently, leading her to the dining table. I pulled out the folder Darren and I had started compiling. I laid out the bank statements first. All the unauthorized purchases, hotels, jewelry, clothing. Then the second phone. I powered it on, showed her the texts to Jillian, the flirty messages with Raymond, the discussions with a custody lawyer. I showed her the staged photos, the bruises, the screenshots of secret bank accounts. Her face changed as she absorbed it all. Confusion melted into disbelief, and then into something sharper. She started, then shook her head. She's been setting you up. My eldest son stood in the hallway, watching us. I caught his eye. I didn't say anything. Just let him see. My mother hugged me. Tight. I'm here. For whatever you need. I looked up in time to see my son's shoulders loosen. Something shifted in his face, relief, maybe, or validation. Like something he'd been carrying just got a little lighter. The rest of the day blurred together. Darren and I built a timeline. We cross-referenced texts from the second phone with bank statements, receipts, missed calls, and calendar entries. And a pattern emerged, one that made me sick. Every girl's night out matched a hotel charge. Every time she claimed a last-minute emergency and left me with all 4 kids, there was a meeting with Raymond. A dinner. A reservation. A room. Mid-afternoon, my daughter wandered over while Darren's daughter was coloring. Daddy, she asked, clutching her puzzle box, why hasn't Mommy called to say goodnight? The question hit like a punch to the ribs. I opened my mouth, unsure what to say, but Darren's daughter chimed in before I had to respond. Hey, want to help me with this puzzle? It's a unicorn castle. My daughter beamed and skipped over. But I saw it. The way my son's jaw clenched. The way his eyes flicked toward me and then away. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat with Darren and my mother going through more messages, more emails. My mother brought printed copies, emails my wife had sent her over the past year. Each one was subtle. Not outright lies, just carefully constructed narratives. She says you work too much, my mom said, flipping a page. That you come home angry. That she's afraid of how unpredictable you are. I stared down at the emails. She never mentioned how often I offered to adjust my hours if she went back to work. She didn't mention the Amazon packages or the vacations. My mom sighed. It's manipulation, but it's smart. It reads like a cry for help without ever saying it outright. My phone buzzed again. A text from my boss. Feeling better? Just confirming you're good for Monday. I blinked. She must have called my work during that sick day. Told them what? Another lie. Another thread in the tangled web I'd have to unravel. Around 10 o'clock, Darren's cousin, Mark, the lawyer, called. His voice was calm, professional, but firm. These emergency custody hearings, they move quickly. If she files tomorrow, you'll have to be ready. Evidence of her abandonment. Proof of your involvement with the kids. He walked me through it step by step. Documents to collect, what judges looked for, how to stay calm if served unexpectedly. After we hung up, Darren and my mom went to bed. I stayed behind. Just me, the notebook, and the low hum of the fridge in the otherwise silent kitchen. I wrote until my hand cramped. The tablets. The ones she swore the kids needed for learning. Expensive ones. Still in boxes 3 months later. The weekend trips she insisted were to help her sick aunt. I called once. Just to check in. Her aunt had been surprised to hear from me. Said she was doing fine. She had no idea she'd been used as an excuse. Monday morning came too fast. I woke at 4:30, my usual time, but my limbs felt like they were made of stone. My body moved slowly, each motion deliberate. The dogs followed me closely as I let them outside, their tails low, sensing something was off. I stood on the back porch in the pre-dawn dark, the cool air pressing against my face, and tried to breathe past the heaviness in my chest. Darren was already in the kitchen, making coffee and packing lunches like he'd done this 100 times before. He'd extended his stay after everything we uncovered yesterday, and I couldn't put into words how grateful I was. We didn't talk much that morning. We didn't need to. The silence between us was easy, steady, two men doing what needed to be done. The kids woke one by one. My eldest was first. He slipped into the kitchen, wordlessly grabbed the cereal and bowls, and started setting the table. Then he helped his younger siblings brush their teeth, pack their bags, double-check their folders. I didn't ask him to do any of that. No 13-year-old should have to carry this kind of weight. At breakfast, I cleared my throat. I have a meeting at school today, just to talk to some of the teachers. The younger kids took it at face value. My daughter just asked if that meant I'd bring her back a chocolate milk. But my eldest looked at me. Not suspicious, just quietly knowing. He didn't say anything, but his eyes told me he understood I wasn't telling the whole story. When the school bus arrived, we walked out together. I kissed the little ones on the head, gave my eldest a small nod. You good? He nodded back. I'll keep them okay. I watched them board. Watched their backpacks bounce as they disappeared into the yellow belly of the bus. Just regular kids. On a regular Monday. In the middle of a storm they didn't cause. Darren drove me to the school. It might have seemed like overkill, but given the accusations swirling around, I needed a witness. Someone calm, objective. Someone who knew me and could step in if things turned ugly. The school secretary gave me a sympathetic smile as we arrived. Principal Martinez will be with you shortly, Mr. Jackson. That smile made my stomach twist. How much do they know? Principal Martinez's office was warm but tidy. She was in her 50s, sharp but kind eyes, and a tone that said she didn't tolerate nonsense. She had my kids' attendance records spread out across her desk. Mr. Jackson, she began, thank you for coming. We noticed 2 absences for your children last week. Tuesday and Wednesday. Your wife called them in, said there was a family emergency. There wasn't, I said. I was at work. I saw them onto the school bus myself. Same as every other day. I pulled out my work schedule, showing clock-ins and locations. Martinez nodded, making notes, her brow tightening as she pieced it together. I also tried contacting your wife, she added, but haven't received any response. I reached for my phone, opened the text from my wife, the one saying she'd be gone for 2 weeks. She sent me this, I said, handing it over. Her eyebrows rose slightly. 2 weeks. I nodded, without arranging coverage or notifying anyone. She left Friday morning. I've had the kids since. Martinez exhaled through her nose and tapped her pen on the table. I see. She didn't press further, but the shift in her tone told me what I needed to know. I understand this might be a sensitive time, she continued carefully, so I wanted to let you know the school counselor is available. For any of the children. We're here to support them. That phrasing, sensitive time, was deliberate and kind, and it told me she understood more than I had said aloud. The meeting wrapped up with her promising to review the attendance concern and make any necessary corrections after her internal review. I thanked her. Darren offered a handshake. Then we walked out into the morning sun. One hurdle cleared, but more were waiting. Back home, I saw 3 certified letters stacked neatly on the table. My heart sank as I signed for them. The first was from a lawyer I didn't recognize. My wife had retained counsel. The second, joint credit card company. About the fraudulent charges I'd reported. The third, my breath caught. Child Protective Services. Someone, she, had filed a complaint, alleging neglect, abuse. A caseworker would be visiting within 48 hours to assess the situation. Darren read over my shoulder. Son of a. He let loose a string of curses so creative even the dogs tilted their heads. She's not just spreading rumors now, I said. My voice was hollow. She's trying to have my children taken away. I called Darren's cousin, the lawyer, immediately. He walked me through it with calm, clinical clarity. Have witnesses present, he said. Show evidence of medical care, education, meals. Show your stability. Most of all, stay calm. Don't react to accusations. Let the facts speak. The rest of the day became a blur of frantic, focused motion. I pulled out every document I could find, vaccination records, appointment confirmations, dentist visits. I printed school report cards, teacher emails, awards, photos, birthdays, holidays, sleepovers, movie nights. Smiling, laughing, messy-haired kids with frosting on their noses, piled into forts made of blankets, holding up trophies, running through sprinklers, napping with the dogs. Every single image told the same story. Happy, well-cared for children. Every piece of evidence was a lifeline, a testament that I was a competent, loving father. I wasn't perfect, but I had never stopped showing up. My mother came by again that morning, arms full of photo albums and neatly labeled folders. She'd kept everything, school programs, Father's Day cards with shaky handwriting, even crayon drawings where my kids had spelled best dad backwards. "You might need these," she said quietly, placing them on the table. "They tell the truth better than any lawyer ever could." Tuesday morning, I returned to work. I didn't want to, leaving Darren alone to handle a possible CPS visit, but I couldn't afford to look unstable. Not now. As soon as I walked into the office, my boss motioned for me to step into his office. His expression was guarded, but not unfriendly. "She called last week," he said after closing the door. My stomach dropped. "Said you were having some kind of breakdown." I didn't buy it. "Your work's been solid. If anything, you've been more focused lately." Still, I wanted to check in. I took a slow breath. "There's some personal stuff going on. Marital issues. We're separating. She's making false claims." He nodded. "I've been there. It gets messy. You've got job security, all right? Let me know if you need flexibility for court stuff, lawyers, whatever." "Thank you," I said, and meant it. Work helped. The hum of routine, the emails, the meetings, it made me feel steady, like I hadn't been dragged into some surreal nightmare. But I couldn't stop checking my phone. Every buzz made my heart lurch. At noon, Darren's name lit up my screen. "CPS is here. She just arrived." I was out the door before the text finished loading. My supervisor just gave me a nod. He understood. By the time I got home, the caseworker was already inside. She was younger than I expected, early 30s, sharp blazer, notebook in hand, expression calm. She extended a hand. "Mr. Jackson, thanks for coming quickly." Darren had already given her a tour of the main floor. I walked her through the rest. "This is the fridge," I said, opening it to show the labeled containers, fresh produce, lunch bags pre-packed for tomorrow. "Here's the kids' rooms. Everyone has their own drawers, homework space, reading light." She took notes silently, snapping a few photos with a small device. I brought her to the dining area where our chore chart was taped to the wall, each kid's name beside their daily tasks. Our meal plans hung beside it. Color-coded calendar above that, listing club meetings, dentist appointments, school projects, birthdays. "Consistency matters," I said. "Especially now." She didn't respond, but I caught the slight shift in her expression. Darren sat in on the interview, offering his own account. "He's been doing everything," he said simply. "Cooking, cleaning, school prep. The kids are calm, not scared." That should say something. Midway through, my mom arrived. She offered her own observations and added photos and documents she'd brought, vacation pictures, birthday parties, handwritten notes from the kids. Eventually, the topic shifted to the accusations. "The report we received mentions physical abuse. Bruises," the caseworker said. I didn't flinch. "The only physical altercation was the night she tried to drag me out of our bed," I said. "I didn't fight her. I just pulled away. I left the room to avoid escalating." Darren leaned forward. "I've seen no signs of violence from him. Just a man scrambling to keep things normal for his kids after their mom walked out." The woman nodded slightly, flipping through her notes. "Can you speak to the financial accusations?" I handed her the bank statements. Joint account. She had access to everything. She still does, technically. You'll see where the irregularities start: spot charges, jewelry, hotel stays. All while I was paying the mortgage, utilities, groceries. Each page was a small blow against the narrative she'd tried to build. By the time the interview ended, nearly 2 hours later, the caseworker's tone had changed. She couldn't say much, of course, but her closing words lingered in my head. "Some reports don't match the evidence. We take everything seriously, but we also consider the full picture." When she left, I collapsed onto the couch. Darren handed me a beer. "I know it's early, but you've earned it." It was barely 3 o'clock, but I took it. Later, after the kids got home and we'd cleaned up from snack time, we ended up reorganizing the living room just to burn off nervous energy. My eldest son came over quietly while we were untangling a mess of video game cords. "Is everything okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said automatically. He didn't say anything, just raised an eyebrow like he could see straight through the lie. That evening, we were at the table helping with homework when my daughter looked up and said, "Mommy called my tablet today. At school." My heart stopped. "What?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "She called 3 times. But my teacher said no tablets at school and took it." I took her tablet and checked the call history, 3 missed video calls during class hours. From her mother. She knew they weren't allowed tablets at school. She did it on purpose, to reach them directly, to bypass me. I showed the log to Darren, who muttered, "Unbelievable." We sat down and adjusted the settings, parental controls, school hour restrictions. We couldn't block her entirely. Doing so might be used against me in court. But we could control the circumstances. Limit contact. Ensure it only happened at appropriate times with supervision. Wednesday brought its own storm. I'd come home during my lunch break to grab a few more documents for the lawyer when I saw Jillian standing on my porch. She looked out of place, dressed like she came for a confrontation, but her eyes weren't filled with the usual fire. They were clouded. Unsure, I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "Jillian, can we talk?" she asked, arms crossed, but not as defiant as I'd expected. "You here to repeat what my wife told you?" I asked, keeping my voice even. Her jaw tensed. "She said you were abusive, that you isolated her, that you're trying to keep the kids from her." I nodded slowly, then opened the door. "Come in. You can say it in front of someone else too." Darren stood in the kitchen, arms folded. He gave her a silent nod. "Sit down," I said, already reaching for the folder I'd kept on the counter. "I want you to see what's really going on." She sat, eyes darting around the house like she was expecting shouting or chaos. Instead, she found a spotless home, a pot of soup on the stove, and a family calendar color-coded by kid. I laid out the bank statements first, the spa days, the hotel charges, the necklace. "She said those were gifts," Jillian murmured. "Bought with my income." "Without my knowledge," I said, flipping to the next sheet. "Here's the second phone I found. Locked, until I guessed the password. These are messages between her and Raymond." I handed it over. She hesitated, then scrolled. Her face changed with every new screen, first doubt, then realization, then a quiet kind of betrayal. "She told me she was staying with me," she whispered, almost to herself. "She said she needed space from you." "She's with Raymond," I said flatly. "Your name's been her alibi." Jillian's mouth opened, then shut again. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. "I don't expect you to take my side," I added, "but I need you to stop being used as a weapon." She stood up slowly. "I need to think." "I bet you do." She left without another word. That afternoon, my phone rang again, this time from the school. My heart sank. When I arrived, I found my son outside Principal Martinez's office. A fresh cut on his lip, a tissue in his hand, and a look I hadn't seen before, anger wrapped around shame. Martinez explained the other boy had said something crude, something about his mother running off with her boyfriend. My son had heard enough. "He hit him first," Martinez said. "But the other boy, he was cruel. Provoked it." I looked at my son. "Is that true?" He nodded, silent. The principal leaned forward. "Given his spotless record and the context, I'm suspending him for the rest of today and tomorrow. The other boy gets the same." "Thank you," I said quietly. On the drive home, I kept my eyes on the road while my son stared out the window. "I've known," he said after a long silence. "About Raymond. For weeks." I didn't respond. I waited. She asked me to bring her phone once. A text popped up. I didn't mean to see it. But I did. Then I saw more. Messages. She'd get dressed up and leave. Say she had errands. His voice cracked. I didn't say anything because I didn't want it to be true. The pain in his words hit harder than anything my wife had done. "You were never supposed to carry that alone," I said, my voice low. "That's not your burden. That's hers." He wiped his face with his sleeve and didn't say anything else. Darren had dinner ready when we got home. Chicken and rice. Simple, comforting. My son apologized to his siblings for missing dinner because of detention. The story we'd agreed on. The younger ones didn't need to know the truth yet. Thursday passed in a blur. Legal documents. More paperwork. The lawyer, Darren's cousin, had officially taken the case. Payment plan in place, filings drafted. We submitted our response to my wife's emergency custody petition. The accusations she'd made were serious, but vague. Emotional abuse with no specifics. Financial control with no context. Neglect with no evidence. We had everything. The CPS report, Principal Martinez's notes, school records, witness statements. "She's playing a narrative," the lawyer told me, "but it doesn't hold up under scrutiny." Friday morning. Exactly 1 week since she left. The air felt heavy, like a storm about to hit. I stood outside the front door, looking out over the driveway, the lawn, the quiet morning. My wife was supposed to return today. Maybe tonight. Maybe this weekend. The lawyer's advice echoed in my head. Change the locks. Legally permitted after abandonment. Have her belongings packed. Neutral. Orderly. And ready for pickup. Thursday night, after the kids were finally asleep and the house had quieted, I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, my bedroom now, and stared at the closet. Darren appeared beside me without saying anything, a stack of empty boxes in his arms. We'd agreed earlier that night. Pack her things, document everything, protect myself. Piece by piece, we worked through it. Her jewelry, sparkling reminders of anniversaries, birthdays, random, "I saw this and thought of you" moments. I recognized most of them, but others, the newer ones, designer brands I'd never bought, price tags I couldn't justify, burned like acid in my hands. Gifts, no doubt, from Raymond. I photographed each one before gently placing it in a box. Her clothes came next. Entire outfits still with tags on. Dozens of dresses, coats, handbags. I remembered the fights, me wondering why our card bills were so high, her brushing it off as essentials. Essentials that sat unworn and used, untouched. We moved in silence, mostly. Occasionally Darren would ask, "Want me to label this closet, dresses, or just clothing?" I'd nod or murmur back. The weight of memory hung between us. Around midnight, my eldest son wandered in. He didn't say anything, just stood in the doorway, watching. Then, without a word, he grabbed a roll of tape and a Sharpie and knelt beside one of the boxes. 3 generations of men, betrayed by the same person, packing up what was left. By Friday afternoon, 23 boxes lined the garage wall. Labeled, sealed, photographed. A 17-year marriage reduced to cardboard and tape. Each box heavier than it looked, not because of its contents, but because of what it represented. The locksmith came shortly after the kids left for school. I watched him work from the porch, the sound of metal against metal echoing in my chest. New locks, new keys, a necessary line drawn in the sand. When he handed me the fresh set of keys, my hand trembled. "This is your house now," Darren said, handing me the spare. "Start living like it." I didn't have time to process the shift before my phone rang around 4 o'clock. Her name flashed on the screen for the first time in a week. I answered. "Hello." Her voice was sharp. "Cold. Why doesn't my key work?" I exhaled, steady. "You abandoned the home. Your belongings are in the garage. They're ready for pickup." And just like that, the dam burst. Screaming, accusations, calling me a thief, a monster, a manipulator. She said I was traumatizing the kids, that I was destroying their lives. I set the phone on speaker. Darren hit record on his. Let her rant. Evidence. When she paused to breathe, I said, "CPS came. They've already interviewed me. The school's concerned too. You didn't answer their calls. Our son got into a fight because of rumors about your affair. This isn't about me. You've left damage behind." Silence. Nothing. Just the low buzz of static on the line. An hour later, she pulled into the driveway with Raymond. He didn't even look ashamed. Just got out like he belonged there. I stayed inside with the kids. Darren handled the exchange, opened the garage, showed them the boxes. I watched through the front window, heart pounding. My youngest daughter tugged at my shirt. "Why is mommy outside but not coming in?" I smiled gently. "Mommy's just picking up some things, sweetie. She'll see you soon." The lie tasted like acid, but it was better than saying, because she chose someone else. My eldest son stood beside me, staring out at her. When she turned and looked toward the house, he stepped back into the shadows, unwilling to let her see him. She tried twice to approach the house. Twice, Darren stepped between her and the front door. "This is not your home anymore," he told her. The second time, she screamed about her rights as a mother, loud enough that neighbors came out to watch. She didn't care. She wanted the performance. Finally, they left. Her eyes caught mine through the window as she got into the truck. There was no sorrow in her expression, just rage, pure venom. That evening, emotionally spent, I didn't have the strength to cook. I ordered pizza again. The kids barely touched it. Even the little ones, who usually cheered at the word pizza, sat quietly, picking at their slices. After they went to bed, I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone. One new message. Unknown number. I opened it. A photo, my wife at a restaurant with Raymond, laughing. Her hand on his. A necklace around her neck I'd never seen before. The message, "Thought you should see who she really is. A concerned friend." I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. I didn't need more proof. I didn't need more pain. Saturday marked 1 week since Darren arrived. He'd extended his stay again. His wife and kids understood, family mattered more right now. That morning, we all went to the park. All 8 of us. Dogs too. It was chaos, laughter, running, barking, squeals from the swing set. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. Watching my kids play, seeing my son chase his cousin with a football, hearing my daughter shout for the dog to sit. It grounded me. This was what I was fighting for. And for once, for one long, sunlit day, my phone stayed silent most of the day. The calm was a lie. I could feel it in my chest like pressure before a storm. The silence from my wife after Friday's pickup, it was too easy, too quiet. I knew her well enough to understand she wasn't done. Sunday proved it. The pounding on the front door jolted me awake at 7 a.m. My heart thudded as I threw on a shirt and peered through the peephole. 2 uniformed officers. My stomach dropped. Darren appeared beside me just as I opened the door. "Everything okay, officers?" They explained they were responding to a welfare check. Someone had reported that I was unstable and that the children might be in danger. The words were clinical, but I could see it in their eyes. They didn't expect to find anything alarming. "Come in," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Kids are eating breakfast. You're welcome to look around." They walked through the house, saw the clean kitchen, The kids in their pajamas laughing over cereal, the dogs lounging by the back door. A normal Sunday morning. My mother, who'd shown up just before the officers, was rolling out dough with the younger kids for cinnamon rolls. Darren stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching everything. One of the officers pulled me aside near the stairs. He kept his voice low. "Just so you're aware, sir, this is the third welfare check called in on your address this weekend." I blinked. "Third?" "Yes. We came by Friday night and Saturday morning. Nobody was home. We had to check again. We were at the park and running errands." I muttered. He nodded. I figured. Just something to think about. Whoever's making these calls might have other motives. I thanked them as they left. As soon as the door shut, I collapsed into the kitchen chair, head in my hands. 3 calls. 3 separate times she'd sick the police on me. "She's escalating," I said to no one in particular. Darren was already pouring more coffee. "She's not interested in co-parenting. She's trying to destroy you." Mom kept the kids distracted with flour and sugar and laughter. My eldest son sat beside me silently, his arm brushing mine. He didn't say anything, but his presence was grounding, more comforting than any word could have been. The lawyer called an hour later. "She's filed additional motions," he said. "She's claiming parental alienation now. Says you're keeping the kids from her." I almost laughed. "She left them. Hasn't made one serious attempt to see them." "She's not arguing facts," he replied. "She's crafting a narrative." We spent the rest of Sunday preparing for Tuesday's hearing. Darren typed as I dictated a timeline. My mother contacted neighbors, gathering character references. My boss emailed a letter confirming my reliability and work ethic. The kids' teachers sent notes about their attendance, academic success, and behavior. Around 3 o'clock, my eldest son approached me with a quiet, "Can I write a letter to the judge?" I looked at him, unsure. "That's a big step, buddy." "I know," he said, "but I want to say how it's been." I told the lawyer. After a brief pause, he said, "Let him write it. You can decide later whether to submit it." That evening, I found my son at his desk, tongue between his teeth, writing in his best print. He folded the paper before I could read it. "Not yet," he said. "I'm not sure I want anyone to see it yet." I respected that. He'd had enough taken from him already. If this gave him a sense of agency, he could keep it. Monday morning arrived with another blow. I was about to leave for work when a process server showed up on our porch. Darren opened the door. "For Mr. Jackson." My stomach turned. I tore open the envelope. My wife was suing for spousal support. "She's claiming you left her destitute." Darren read over my shoulder, incredulous. "After she drained the accounts?" "She says freezing them and changing the locks was financial abuse." I muttered. "She's living with Raymond," he snapped. "That guy probably makes more than you." I sent everything to the lawyer before heading to work. Physical labor helped. The repetition, the routine. No surprises there. My coworkers noticed the weight in my shoulders, but no one pushed. One guy clapped me on the back and said, "Hang in there, man." It was more than enough. That afternoon, the school called again. My daughter's teacher this time, good news. She'd been selected for the advanced reading program. I sat down hard on a nearby bench. "Thank you," I said, barely able to speak. Even in chaos, my kids were rising. When I got home, Darren was in the kitchen, teaching the kids to cook simple meals. My eldest was showing his siblings how to flip grilled cheese without burning it. I watched from the hallway. A self-sufficiency lesson disguised as fun. Insurance for the uncertain future. Then my phone buzzed. My wife. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, it played, her voice sharp and indignant. "You're keeping them from me. You're kidnapping our children. I'm calling the police again. I want to see them now." I didn't respond. Instead, I called the lawyer. Told him everything. "Offer supervised visitation," he said, firm. "Neutral location. Put it in writing. Document everything. Show you're not keeping the kids from her, but that you're maintaining appropriate boundaries for everyone's protection." I texted her the offer. Tuesday evening, the park, supervised visitation. I'd stay close, but she could have time with the kids. A fair arrangement. Civil, reasonable. Her response came back almost immediately, vicious, defensive, full of venom, but at the bottom of all the bile, there it was, fine. She agreed. That night, I didn't sleep. I tried. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling. But the thought of that courtroom, the weight of what it would decide, who gets to protect our children, it crushed me. My mind ran in endless circles. What if they believed her? What if all the lies stuck? Around 3 a.m., I gave up. Found Darren on the back porch, nursing a cup of coffee. He didn't say anything when I sat beside him. He didn't have to. We just sat there, 2 brothers bound by blood, exhaustion, and a grief we didn't know how to name. He'd put his whole life on hold for me. His job, his wife, his kids. And he never once complained. How do you ever repay something like that? You don't. You just remember. You carry it. As the sky turned pale and birds started their songs, I felt the shift, subtle but undeniable. 2 weeks since she left. 2 weeks since everything changed. I wasn't the same man anymore. A little stronger. A little harder. Definitely more tired. Maybe more broken too. But I had clarity now, clarity about what mattered. My kids. Their peace. Their safety. Inside, the house stirred to life. Darren flipped pancakes in the kitchen while I got dressed. My mother arrived early, ready to take the younger ones. My eldest son offered to help. Still on suspension. Still carrying too much on his shoulders. I put on my only suit. The one I'd worn to weddings and funerals. It felt right. Today was both the death of something and the painful beginning of whatever came next. Darren drove us. I had my folders, every document, every photo, every receipt. Each one a piece of armor. Outside the courthouse, she was already there. Perfectly styled, sunglasses perched on her head like she was heading to brunch instead of a legal battle for custody. Raymond was nowhere in sight. Her lawyer probably told her to keep the affair partner far from the judge's eyes. Our eyes met, and it hit me again. 17 years. For children. A whole life. Torn down by secrets, betrayal, and manipulation. But in that moment, there was no love left. No recognition. Just a cold, practiced blankness. She looked right through me. Fine. That's who she was now. I stepped inside. Darren beside me. My lawyer, Samuel, already waiting near the defendant's table. He'd driven 3 hours that morning, charging next to nothing because he was family, but fighting like I was his own brother. She sat on the opposite side, whispering furiously to her attorney. The woman looked like she ate men like me for breakfast, sharp, polished, predatory. My wife gestured wildly, the glint of jewelry I'd unknowingly paid for catching the light. Her nails were done, of course. Then the judge walked in. Older, gray-bearded, tired eyes. Like he'd seen this show 100 times. Couples tearing each other apart, always believing they were the victim. We rose. We sat. The room buzzed with tension. Samuel had prepped me over and over. Don't react. Don't interrupt. Keep your voice calm. Let the evidence speak. Then they started. Her lawyer stood first, painting me as some monster from a domestic thriller. Unstable, controlling, emotionally abusive. A man who'd locked his wife out of her home, stolen her money, brainwashed the kids. I gripped the edge of the table. My teeth ached from clenching. She took the stand. Cried on cue. Described her prison. Me. Said I wouldn't let her work, wouldn't let her breathe. Claimed she went away for medical treatment, not a vacation with her lover. Claimed I turned the kids against her. She showed photos of bruises. Told the judge I was erratic. Her lawyer produced financial records that twisted the truth, implying I'd hidden or stolen assets. And for a split second, just a breath of time, I almost believed it. The way she said it. The way she looked at me. Then Samuel rose. One by one, we unraveled it. Bank records showing she'd had full access to our accounts. Purchases I never approved, never even knew about. The CPS report, clean. The principal's letter about her disappearing when the school needed to reach her. Finally, it was my turn. I stood, walked slowly to the stand, looked the judge in the eye. My palms were sweating, but my voice was steady. I'm not a perfect man, I said, but I'm a good father. And then I started answering questions, point by point, fact by fact. Even as I spoke, my stomach twisted and churned. Not from fear, not from guilt, but from the sheer weight of it all, the heartbreak, the exhaustion, the rage, the need to protect the only thing that still mattered. My children. I kept my voice steady despite the churning in my stomach. I sat in that courtroom and explained the daily routine I'd maintained for years, waking early, making breakfasts, packing lunches, checking homework, getting them to school. No flourish, no emotion, just facts. A schedule built on love, turned into evidence. I talked about how she pursued her interests, her mental health sessions, her girls' nights, her emergency errands, and how I picked up every slack, held every thread, made sure our children never felt the unraveling. The judge asked who was helping me now. I told him, my brother Darren, my mother. I described the calm, structured environment we'd created in the aftermath. It felt surreal to speak about it like a report, not a life. But that's what the courtroom needed, proof, not pain. Then came the questions about her abandonment. She left for a planned vacation. I said, steady. After I refused to cancel plans to visit my brother. Her attorney pounced. Why did you change the locks? Safety, I answered. She left the door unlocked. She destroyed financial documents. I didn't feel secure with her coming and going unpredictably. Why did you move money? To stop the bleeding. There were unauthorized purchases. Thousands. Why didn't you try to contact her? I did. I nodded toward the phone. Repeatedly. She said we'd talk when she got back. The judge asked to see my phone. I handed it over without hesitation. Samuel had already flagged the relevant messages, call logs, unanswered texts, the thread where she said we'd speak later. The judge read in silence. Every buzz, every silence in those screenshots, it was all there. Then Samuel played our last card. The second phone, legally obtained, found among her packed belongings in the marital home. Messages, photos, plans, weeks of conversations between her and Raymond. Discussions of how to hide money, stage an exit, manipulate custody. Not reaction, premeditation. The courtroom stilled. I could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. The judge's eyes narrowed as he scrolled. Her attorney jumped up, objecting, claiming illegal acquisition. Samuel was ready. It was found in the home, Your Honor. Among items the petitioner directed the respondent to pack for her. It's marital property. The judge allowed it. Then, like a final crack in the dam, Jillian's affidavit. She'd submitted it the night before. A guilty conscience, maybe. Or maybe the truth just finally screamed louder than loyalty. She confirmed my wife had been staying with Raymond. Not her. That she'd lied to her friends too. That she had spoken openly about getting everything in the divorce. Money, house, even the children. The judge called a recess. I stepped into the hallway for air, trying to exhale the weight of it all. That's when she cornered me. You've ruined everything, she hissed. I turned to face her. Her face was taut with rage, voice sharp with betrayal, but not the kind born of love. The kind born of a lost game. I gave you 17 years, she spat. Just be grateful. I stared at her. Really looked. The woman who had carried my children. Who shared my home, my bed, my life. And now, I couldn't recognize her at all. You gave me lies, I said, voice low. I gave everything to our family. She raised her hand, eyes flashing, but Darren stepped forward, solid and calm. She hesitated, dropped it. Samuel arrived a beat later, guiding me away, her attorney pulling her in the other direction. Back in the courtroom, the judge's voice carried finality. Temporary custody to me. Supervised visitation for her, pending a full hearing. An evaluation ordered based on deception and misuse of legal resources. Joint accounts frozen except for approved necessities. Her scream of outrage pierced the courtroom walls. The judge threatened contempt. She didn't care. Her attorney had to drag her out, still yelling about injustice and stolen children. Outside, I leaned against Darren's truck. My legs barely held me up. The adrenaline was gone, and I was just a man held together by exhaustion and obligation. Samuel shook my hand. We'll file the schedule. First supervised visit is Saturday. Courthouse Family Center. The drive home was silent. Darren watched me like I might crack. But there was nothing to spill out. No tears. No relief. Just hollowness. At home, my mother had the kids doing homework. My eldest son looked up first. Everything okay, Dad? I forced a smile. Yeah, buddy. Everything's going to be okay. My youngest wrapped herself around my legs. Is Mommy coming home? I knelt beside her, swallowing the knot in my throat. She's going to visit you Saturday, sweetheart. But she's living somewhere else right now. What? How do you explain betrayal to a 6-year-old? Sometimes grown-ups need different things. But she still loves you. You'll see her soon. The lie burned, but I needed to protect her from her mother's damage. That evening, I kept my word. I took them to the park. A short visit. No games. Just presents. She arrived alone. No Raymond. No designer heels or glittering earrings. Just jeans and a sweater. And for a moment, just a fleeting breath, she looked like the woman I'd married. The younger kids ran to her as soon as they saw her. She dropped to her knees and wrapped them in her arms, whispering their names, kissing their foreheads like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't disappeared from their lives without warning or care. But my eldest son didn't move. He stood beside me, arms crossed, jaw set. She looked up. Come here, baby. I've missed you. He didn't budge. I don't want to talk to you. Her smile faltered. Sweetheart, please. I'm your mother. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Mothers don't abandon their families for their boyfriends. Her face collapsed, eyes flicking to mine like I'd put the words in his mouth. But I hadn't. That was all him, raw and true, the way betrayal sits in a child's chest when they've seen too much too soon. She spent the hour with the younger three. They played in the grass while I sat on a bench with my son. He stayed quiet for most of it, then eventually pulled out his phone and turned it toward me. A text from a classmate. Sorry for what I said. You were right to defend your mom and siblings. I didn't know. They think I did the right thing, he said quietly. I nodded, swallowing past the tightness in my throat. You did. When the hour ended, she approached again. Her movements were slower now, the false warmth gone. She stopped a few feet from the bench. Can we talk privately? Darren caught my eye from his truck and gave a small nod. I stood and walked with her a few feet away, still close enough to see my kids, still close enough to not be cornered. I want to come home, she said, barely audible. I made a mistake. I didn't say anything. Raymond, it's over. I see that now. 17 years of marriage, and she thought it could be undone and rewound with a sentence. It's too late for that, I said. You're being cruel, she snapped, punishing me for one mistake. I pulled out my phone and swiped to the bank statements. I held the screen toward her. 8 months of hotel charges isn't one mistake. Calling CPS on me isn't one mistake. Destroying financial documents isn't one mistake. She grabbed my arm, voice rising. I was confused, overwhelmed. Being a stay-at-home mom is harder than you think. I gently pulled her hand off. I never thought it was easy. That's why I helped. Every morning, every night. That's why I paid for cleaning help. That's why I supported every club, every hobby, every course you said you needed. You controlled me, she hissed. I begged you to let me get a job. No, I begged you to get a job, to have your own money, to have your own life outside the house. You refused. The mask cracked again, rage, pure and sharp, flashing in her eyes. I shouldn't have to work, she said through clenched teeth. You promised to take care of me. There it was. The truth beneath everything. Marriage, to her, was a contract with a paycheck. A shelter. A service. I did take care of you, I said. And our children. While you were taking care of Raymond. She raised her hand. This time I didn't even blink. I just looked at her. And slowly, she lowered it. Saturday, I said. Courthouse Family Center. 2 hours. Supervised. Don't be late. I turned my back and walked away, calling the kids. My eldest son took my hand without a word, something he hadn't done in years. The younger kids waved goodbye like they always did, already chattering about what we'd have for dinner. They didn't see what I saw. Not yet. Wednesday morning brought new problems. My boss called me into his office, face calm. Your wife contacted HR, he said. Allegations of domestic violence. My stomach dropped. Again. She claimed you were unstable. Dangerous. Said you'd assaulted her, he added, frowning. I defended you. But we're a company. We need documentation. I left work during lunch to get certified copies of the custody ruling and the CPS report. When I returned, HR reviewed them and assured me I was secure for now, but the tightrope I was walking felt thinner than ever. That afternoon, it got worse. Raymond showed up. He stood on my porch, arms slightly raised, palms empty, like he was expecting to be punched. He was younger than I thought. Mid-30s, maybe. Gym built. T-shirt too tight. He looked nervous. We need to talk, he said. Darren was behind me before I could even answer. No, Darren said evenly. You need to leave. Please. 5 minutes. There are things you need to know. Against everything in me, I stepped outside. Darren didn't leave my side. Raymond took a few steps back, giving space. She told me you were separated, he began. Said the divorce was almost final. I didn't know. He pulled out his phone, scrolling. She said you were abusive. That she was scared. I thought I was helping her escape. He showed me the messages, long paragraphs, emotional manipulation, false claims. Her tone painted her as a victim, trembling and helpless, caught in a nightmare. The same story she'd told her friends, my family, HR, even the judge. I stared at the screen. Every word had been part of her web. When did you figure out the truth? Friday. When she showed up ranting about custody and the lawyer, and saw those boxes stacked in the garage, boxes she hadn't even asked about until then. Raymond told me her whole story cracked open. She said you left her. Said you froze her out of everything. He said, handing me back his phone. But then she shows up screaming, accusing you of stealing her life? It didn't add up. He looked lost. Embarrassed. I should have hated him. Should have blamed him. But when I looked at him, I didn't see the guy who ruined my marriage. I saw a sucker. Another one of her victims. Younger. Maybe 10 years on me. Definitely greener. He'd thought he was saving a woman in danger. Stay away from my family, I said, voice steady. He nodded. I get it. And if you want these. He held up his phone again, eyes flicking up. I've got more. Screenshots. Stuff she sent me. I gave him my lawyer's number. Send them there. He did. Right there on the porch. Sent a whole folder of images and texts. Then he walked off, shoulders caved in like the truth had finally settled on him. I watched him drive away. Darren gave a low whistle. She played everybody. Yeah, I said. She did. The rest of Thursday passed in a haze of routine, work, school pickups, homework, dinner. But it felt like armor. Every ordinary act, every night I read a story or signed a permission slip, stitched something back together inside me. My eldest son had started asking questions. Deep ones. About lies. About love turning into hate. About how someone could be one thing for years and then become someone else overnight. I tried to answer what I could, without burdening him more. Yes, people lie. Sometimes for reasons that make no sense to us. And yes, love can go wrong when trust is broken. But none of this is your fault. And you don't have to choose sides. You just get to be a kid. Friday afternoon, I got a call from the school counselor. The younger kids had asked to speak with someone. My daughter had drawn our family, 4 of us grouped together. One figure off to the side, scribbled over in black crayon. She's processing, the counselor said gently. It's normal. I found my son in the garage later, sitting cross-legged in front of a box. His mother's box. I paused in the doorway. What are you looking for? He held up a photo album. Just this. Pictures from before. When we were happy. I needed to remind myself it wasn't all fake. I sat beside him on the floor. We flipped through it slowly. Christmas mornings. Birthday cakes. Her holding the babies. Me holding her. We looked like a perfect family in every photo. Smiling. Solid. Was any of it real? He asked. I looked at him. This boy trying so hard to understand adult things he shouldn't have to. The love for you kids was real, I said. I believe that. Despite everything. She loves you. Then why did she leave? The question every abandoned kid asks. The question that has no right answer. Because sometimes adults make selfish choices. It's not about you. It's about her. He leaned against my shoulder, silent for a while. I'm glad you stayed. Saturday came too fast. The younger kids dressed in their favorite outfits. I let them pick what they wanted to wear, knowing she'd care. She always cared how things looked. And maybe something familiar would help ease the tension. The courthouse family center was sad in that way only places like that can be. Toys too clean. Books too neat. Everything trying too hard to feel normal. A social worker met us at the door and spoke gently to the kids about the rules, what they could do, what to expect. She arrived 10 minutes late. No Raymond this time. She wore jeans and a sweater, but it didn't suit her the way her expensive stuff used to. She'd lost weight. Her hair was pulled back, face bare. She looked dimmed, like life had begun dimming her too. The younger kids rushed to her. She smiled and hugged them, but I watched her eyes. They kept flicking toward our eldest son. He didn't move. The social worker encouraged him to at least greet her. He did, stiffly. Hi, was all he gave before going to a corner with a book. I sat in a room nearby with other parents, staring at a laminated poster about co-parenting strategies that felt like a cruel joke. Darren had offered to come, but I said no. This was mine to carry. Through the observation window, I watched her trying. The little ones told her about school. Friends. Their games. She smiled, nodded, but her attention drifted again and again to the quiet boy in the corner. Halfway through, she managed to get him into a board game. They played in silence. She tried to talk. He answered in one-word replies. She reached for his hand once. He pulled away. The social worker intervened when my wife began crying. It scared the younger ones. The woman offered tissues, redirected the visit to something lighter. Coloring. Play-Doh. Safety. 2 hours later, my kids came out with drawings and confused expressions. They clutched paper hearts and crayon portraits. But my eldest son looked exhausted. She reached for me as I turned to leave. Her hand curled around my arm, her voice sharp and low. This is cruel, she said. Supervised visits? Like I'm some kind of criminal. It's temporary. Follow the court's requirements, and it can change. She folded her arms tightly across her chest. I want them overnight next weekend. That's not my decision. Talk to your lawyer. Her eyes flicked toward our eldest son, who was already walking to the car, head down. He hates me, she said, her voice cracking. He's hurt, I said. It takes time. Time I don't have. You're turning them against me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The social worker stepped in just then, her tone firm but kind. This should be discussed through your attorneys, she said. My wife turned on her heel without another word, the click of her shoes sharp and angry as she stormed off across the pavement. At home, the kids scattered. Each one processed the visit differently. My youngest daughter pinned her drawing to the fridge, a rainbow, big, uneven letters spelling out I love mommy. My eldest son went straight to his room, blasting music loud enough to make the walls hum. I didn't stop him. That evening, Darren arrived with pizza and a new board game, some chaotic thing involving ninja cats and exploding tacos. Within 5 minutes, we were all laughing. Real laughter. Full-bellied and reckless. That kind of laughter felt like a gift. Like we were remembering how to breathe again. Sunday morning, I stumbled down the stairs expecting to be the first one up, but the smell hit me before I even reached the kitchen. Eggs. Toast. Coffee. There he was. My son. Spatula in hand, flipping eggs like he'd done it 100 times. What's this about? I asked, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. He shrugged. Figured you could use a break. Plus, I gotta practice. You know, just in case. In case. He didn't look at me. Just kept working the pan. In case this becomes permanent. In case you need help. My heart broke and swelled at once. He shouldn't have to be thinking this way. Thank you, I said. I meant it. But you know this isn't your responsibility, right? I know, he said. I want to help. The others drifted down, pulled by the smell of breakfast. My youngest clapped when she saw the table. Wow. You made all this? She said, hugging her big brother. Darren gave him a slow nod of approval. You're officially promoted to head chef, he said. We ate together. Talked about the science project due Wednesday. About the dogs needing shots. Nothing about court. Nothing about mommy. Just life. Beautiful, simple life. Afterward, as the kids played outside, I sat with Darren in the dining room. We opened the laptop and started sorting through the numbers. The lawyer had warned me, protect the assets now, or there might not be anything left to protect. The reality hit hard. Credit cards I'd never seen. Loans against the house. A drained savings account. Years of careful planning, gone. Darren exhaled, leaned back in the chair. You'll recover. Might take time, but you'll rebuild. Time. It always came back to time. Monday arrived with another hit, a letter from her attorney. A settlement offer. She'd take her belongings, one of the cars, and a modest monthly support payment. In return, she'd drop claims to the house and accept current custody. Samuel called within an hour. It's not the worst deal, he said, but I think we can push for better. She's scared. The evidence we've got, it's solid. I don't want to destroy her, I said. I just want to protect the kids. Then we negotiate. From a position of strength. We spent the next hour mapping it out. Push for extended supervised visits. Lower the support payments. Lock out any future claim to my retirement. She'd made a mess. I wouldn't let her make a second one with what was left. That night, I was deep in legal paperwork when I heard the kitchen clatter. My son again. He'd started dinner. Recruited his siblings. They were chopping vegetables, stirring pasta, giggling over spilled sauce. They didn't wait to be asked anymore. They just showed up. Later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered before thinking. Please, she said. Her voice was different. Raw. Not angry. Not cold. Just raw. I should hang up, I said. Just listen. I almost didn't. But something in the way she said it, small, almost human, made me pause. I know I ruined everything, she said. I know you hate me. But those are my babies. Please don't take them from me completely. I'm not taking them, I said quietly. You left them. I was confused. Raymond made promises. Said things that made sense when I was unhappy. I thought I deserved more. You did deserve more. We both did. That's why I asked you to talk to me. I begged you. To work on us. But you chose to lie. Silence on the other end. Then, a whisper. I know. I'm getting help. Therapy. Trying to understand why I did this. Too little. Too late. But maybe, just maybe. So I can be a better mother to our children. Follow the court orders. Do what they require. That's all I can offer. There was a pause on the other end. Then her voice, quieter. I love them. Whatever you think of me. I love our children. Then prove it, I said. Show up. Be consistent. Get healthy. They need a mother, not a victim. I hung up before she could respond. From the hallway, I noticed movement. My eldest son stood there, arms folded, his expression blank. That mom, he asked. Yeah. Is she really getting help? She says she is. He stared past me for a second, thinking, good. Maybe she'll stop being so selfish. There it was. The plain truth from a boy forced to grow up too fast. I pulled him into a hug. He resisted at first, then melted into it, leaning his forehead against my shoulder. I held on longer than I needed to. Longer than maybe he wanted. But I needed it. Tuesday morning felt deceptively normal. No fires. No police. No courtroom. Just cereal bowls, lunchboxes, and backpacks. The kids went off to school without a fuss, and Darren, after more than a week of selfless support, finally headed home to his own family. I went to work, bracing myself, pretending my world hadn't been turned inside out. Camilla, one of my co-workers, someone I'd barely exchanged pleasantries with before all this, showed up at break with coffee and an understanding I hadn't asked for. Heard about the custody ruling, she said softly, handing me the paper cup. Been there. She didn't mean the exact details, but the look in her eyes told me enough. We sat on the loading dock behind the building, sun on our backs, and she told me her story. Husband with a gambling problem. Debt collectors. Custody hearings that left her daughter with nightmares. But she'd survived it. She'd rebuilt. The first year's hell, she said bluntly. The second is better. By the third, you'll wonder why you waited so long to leave. I almost told her I hadn't left. That I'd fought like hell to keep my family together. But deep down, I knew she was right. Maybe we'd both left, piece by piece, for years. Just too scared to say it aloud. That afternoon, Principal Martinez called with a voice full of actual joy for once. My daughter's reading scores had jumped again. They wanted to move her up permanently to advanced placement. Even with everything going on, my children were thriving. I came home to find a box on the porch. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable, hers. Inside were 4 envelopes, each labeled with a child's name, and 1 flash drive. I sat at the table and opened them one by one. Apologies. Words of love. Promises to be better. They were age-appropriate, surprisingly free of guilt tripping or manipulation. They sounded real, sincere. The flash drive held photos, hundreds of them. Her with the kids at parks and museums, messy craft tables, zoo trips, ice cream days. Moments I'd missed because I'd been working. Smiling faces I hadn't known existed. Proof that there had been good days. Even if the foundation cracked later, it hadn't always been this broken. I called Samuel. Let them read the letters, he said after I explained. Keep copies, just in case. Everything is evidence now, even the sincere parts. That evening, my eldest read his letter alone. When he came out, his eyes were red. He didn't say anything, and I didn't push. The younger ones brought theirs to me. Can you help with this word? My daughter asked, squinting at the cursive. I read it aloud. Forever. She smiled. Can I write back? She asked. Of course, I said, pulling out crayons and paper. We'll give it to Mommy on Saturday. Wednesday came and went quietly. That alone felt like a miracle. Work, school, homework, bedtime. The new rhythm of single parenthood was setting in. I'd always done a lot, packing lunches, helping with science projects, but now it was only me. No one to vent to. No one to undercut me either. Just me and the kids. Thursday morning, I dressed in my suit again. Final custody hearing. This one was different, less urgent, more procedural. The big emergencies were behind us. Now it was about lines on paper. My wife arrived dressed simply. No drama. No scene. Her eyes didn't meet mine. She sat beside her lawyer, flipping through documents. The judge reviewed everything. The psychological evaluation found no major disorders, but the phrase narcissistic tendencies stood out. A diagnosis that didn't surprise anyone who'd seen the last month unfold. Therapy was mandated. Parenting classes too. Custody stayed with me. Supervised visits for 3 months, then increasing if she showed consistent effort. Child support? Waived. Too much financial damage already. Spousal support? 1 year. Minimal. The divorce would be finalized in 6 months, if nothing major happened in the meantime. Property was divided cleanly. I got the house, and the debt tied to it. She kept her car, her personal items. She signed everything without protest. When the judge finalized the temporary orders, she looked at me across the courtroom, not with anger, not with hate. Just resignation. There was something hollow in her eyes, like even she knew this version of the story was over. A chapter closed. Outside, while our lawyers lingered in quiet conversation, she approached me. I know you don't believe me, she said, voice low, but I am trying to change. I nodded, not out of agreement, but acknowledgement. I hope that's true. For the kids' sake. She hesitated, glancing down at the ground before adding, for my sake too. I don't like who I became. There was nothing for me to say to that. The silence between us stretched, no longer filled with hostility, just the awkward weight of everything left unsaid. Then Samuel called me over to sign more papers. See you Saturday, she said quietly, turning and walking to her car alone. I watched her go. This woman, who'd shared my bed, who'd been the mother of my children, who'd woven her life so tightly into mine that cutting the threads left scars, she was unrecognizable now. And yet, somewhere between the girl I married and the stranger she became, there had to be something left. Maybe therapy would help her find that person again. Friday felt like a celebration of survival. 2 full weeks since the explosion, and somehow we were still standing, bent in places, bruised, maybe even broken, but standing. My eldest asked if Uncle Darren could visit again soon. There was a bond between them now, one that hadn't existed before. Something forged in fire. I picked up the phone, called my brother, and he promised to come for Sunday dinner. The kids would be thrilled. That evening, for the first time since the separation, we had a family movie night. Microwave popcorn. A silly animated comedy. A pile of tangled limbs, kids and dogs, on the couch. It wasn't perfect. Nothing about it was. But it was ours. My youngest daughter fell asleep on my lap. Her tiny form curled against me, breathing soft and steady. I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead and felt a quiet peace settle in my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from Jillian. She'd heard about the custody ruling and wanted to apologize again for believing the lies, for enabling the deception. I stared at her message a long moment before replying. Thank you for telling the truth when it mattered. I didn't say more. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. Saturday's visitation went better. She brought activities tailored to each child's interests. Coloring books for one, puzzles for another. Even my eldest participated more, still guarded, but present. The social worker noted the improvement. Small steps, she said afterward. We build from small steps. That night, I sat on the back porch. The weather had cooled, but I didn't care. The sky stretched above me, stars sharper than I remembered. They didn't feel as cold anymore. Not distant, just quiet. Like maybe they were listening. No buzzing phone. No crisis. No screaming voicemails. Inside, my children slept soundly, safe and warm. Tomorrow would bring another dinner with Darren, another day of supervising homework, more dogs to walk. Monday would be work and routine, the slow march of rebuilding. But tonight was mine. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. But something close. Possibility. I heard the door open behind me and footsteps on the wood. My eldest joined me, a blanket draped over one arm. He sat down without a word, sharing the warmth. We looked at the stars in silence. Then, softly, "Dad, are you okay?" I turned to look at him. My son. My teammate in this broken mess. I thought about everything. The loss, the lies, the nights I sat alone wondering what had gone wrong. The weight on his young shoulders. The exhaustion etched into my bones. But we were here. We were surviving. "Yeah, buddy," I said, wrapping the blanket around us both. "I think I am." And for the first time in 17 years, I meant it. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.